every gig inspires new thoughts. This is a good way for me to kind of go over them and and ruminate on them and journal uh, these these progresses, these developments as you go through gigs. You get better as you think about what happened and what was good, what was bad, and what are things that you can control or do differently to try to help bring about the better results. Yesterday I played at the city market downtown, and you know the city market is a neat spot in a lot of ways. And it's a unique spot. It's essentially busking, which I highly encourage any musicians, any performers, if you've never busked before, to go do it and make it a consistent part of what you do, because busking will teach you things that other gigs won't. Busking is fundamentally different. The Your relationship to the audience is fundamentally different, and it can be a very cold, difficult experience because to a large extent you can be just completely disregarded, or uh, what you're doing is diminished by the what intellectual context that surrounds it. At least in the minds of lots of the passersby, they're going to categorize you based on what they see, not based on what they hear. And the proof of this is an experiment that was done with, I believe, at the time, the world's rated number one violinist, who played in the subway stations of New York City for hours leading up to his performance at the Grand Concert Hall later, either that day or in the following days. And he made, what would be a typical amount of tips that you might make from doing something like that. And it's a reflection of it didn't draw crowds, and yeah, I feel like that's a story that many people have heard, so I don't really want to like retell everything. It's out there if you want to look into it. Once I heard that story, it reinforced ideas that I already held. But yeah, that it's some of the same lessons I learned when I played at the 5 o'clock wine bar for 6 hours every Sunday for a pretty long stretch of time, and noticed the tendencies of how people were drawn into the music and what it took. And in my experience, it was always hardest to get that first person to sit down, and the second was a little bit harder. And it could take 30 minutes, it could take an hour, and I played for 6 hours, or it could take 2 hours or 3 hours even sometimes to get that first person to sit down. The second would be not that long thereafter, and then once you had two sort of social proofs of other people's votes of confidence within you, then you would get the place would fill up. If you had enough time to continue working with. Beyond that, the place would fill up. And so that there's parallel there with the playing the market. Maybe this is too early. I need to go for my run first before I go for post gig thoughts. But yeah, essentially you can't if you go busking, you can't take the reactions personally. You have to understand that it's a difficult experience, but it's an experience that you can get better at, and you can get better at, and you can achieve better and results with time and with practice. And overall, I think it will help you. I don't know that there's really a colder audience than a street audience, an audience that's less interested in you, that disrespects you more. It's not that most people aren't just like outright disrespectful, but they have no regard for your talent or what you're doing at all. It's the few. It's the few, and that's what I think I was going to title this video is all it takes is one. And um, so let's go with that. So yesterday I took out the Space Arc, which is my one-man band looping system, and I did a few things differently. One really in particular, which was I wore my glasses. I've got these glasses that have lights that kind of I've set the setting that makes it look like fireworks that kind of go off in your eyes. They're like sunglasses kind of things, and they just flash lights. And since the Space Arc is a very digital thing, I thought that'd be kind of neat, and I'm looking forward to later this year when I play the wedding, and I'm doing the Space Arc and using the Space Arc to do the one-man band, but also to do the DJ thing. That I think that just adding those sunglasses will kind of transform me as the solo acoustic presentation. It gives it a different look, and I think that that'll get people more into it. It's funny. Sometimes it's these very simple visual things and cues. If they look right, they'll be effective. Something to. I mean, that's why so much effort and money and time goes into, design and style and all that. But in that's a big industry. But with the Space Arc, what I've noticed most of the time at the city market. So here's some post-gig thoughts. I've played solo acoustic at the city market, and I've played with the Space Arc at the city market. Now, if you haven't seen the Space Arc, it's a fairly large rolling table that I've built that has lights all over it and multiple keyboards. And I'm able to do full band kinds of sounds as one man, and I can make some really, really nice sounds through it. I can do even songs like Careless Whisper, which I did last night, and using a breath instrument and paired with a keyboard, I can duplicate that saxophone lead, and I use really nice quality sounds from, what are they called? They're really nice VSTs that sound unbelievably authentic. SWAM instruments. And so I actually pair it's kind of like a trumpet with a flute and a saxophone, and then I've also got a violin sound that I use from SWAM instruments, and I've got those four always available, and I often blend different amounts of them because they have different tonal qualities that are really nice, and they actually sound really cool and interesting blended together. And so depending on the song, I might create different blends of those. But for Careless Whispers, using a little bit of trumpet, or a decent amount of trumpet, a decent amount of saxophone, a little bit of flute, really, really works for that lead. And so I'm able to play what feels like a very live, like acoustic instrument kind of lead as one man for that saxophone solo of the saxophone melody from Careless Whispers. So I can do stuff like that in the city market. And the reason to mention that is it's unusual. Nobody else is doing that. And so when you do things that are unusual and I would say impressive, and I don't say impressive in the sense that I'm being impressive, because I'm saying impressive in the sense that SWAM Instruments is being impressive, and I just get to be the one that takes credit for it. So, SWAM Instruments gets to take credit with me, but nobody else that's hearing them knows that they're SWAM instruments. They just see, oh, this guy's producing them. But they're impressive sounds, and so when you do something like that, it generally is going to call attention, and especially in the first times that I ever started playing them out, I noticed that people were really intrigued. I was using a Bluetooth harmonica when I first started out doing those VST sounds, and I think it's sort of like when I started out kite surfing. It was very new. Those kind of seeing kite surfing. Most people hadn't seen it, and so if you kite surfed in any kind of beach with public access, you'd have just tons of people just staring and watching that were just fascinated with it. And now, It's just everyone knows it, and those audiences that would form on the beach to watch you kite surf, that just doesn't really happen anymore. I think maybe there's a similar thing going on here with the VSTs, that just with the advent of AI and these sounds that can be made by robots, people just don't give that much credit. Anything, it can just be explained by AI now, and so that's less of a little trick or tool that you can use to grab somebody's or pique somebody's curiosity. But nevertheless, still there's an innate way when people hear what's a remarkably nice sound, they're going to be drawn to it. And so I say all this to say the Space Arc is an impressive thing. I can play with impressive sounds, and I can do a really good job with songs where it really sounds like a one-man band playing it, and it feels really good. The music feels really good. And yet, I've found that when I take the Space Arc out, I often get less in tips than if I just went and played solo acoustic. And so this has been a point of reflection. I've used many different forms of setups when I've played out there, different configurations of speakers and different tools that I use if I'm going solo acoustic or if I'm doing the one-man band Space Arc. But it seemed to me pretty consistent that my solo acoustic act would make more in tips by a significant margin, oftentimes by more than double than the Space Arc would. And so I chalked that up to, ultimately I felt like it probably had to do with, I would have thought it would be reversed, because I thought that the Space Arc was more overall impressive, and just the amount of effort that has gone into creating that in and of itself, what I was bringing that was so unique, to some extent valuable, that was above and beyond what anybody else is doing on a street corner, that would get more tips, because people would be grateful maybe for that amount of effort to bring a quality entertainment to them on a street corner. And obviously I'm saying that's not what I found, and so then the question becomes why, and that's something I guess I could say in this video, that two things about tips. The way I look at tips, tips are feedback, and tips are evidence that people enjoyed what you did. They were moved to do something. They were moved to part with dollars by what you did, whether it's the visual component, whether it's just they want to be nice to somebody playing on the street, and they want to help the less fortunate, and that, or whether they were really moved by the music. And different amounts can maybe mean different things, and it's pretty hard to necessarily know precisely what any particular amount or any particular tip means. But overall, the amount that you receive, I think, in general, can be a reflection of how effective you were that evening. But of course, it varies to significant regard, or with significant regards to each circumstance. Each day is different, and some days bring more generous audiences, some days bring less generous audiences. Nevertheless, I do pay attention to tips, and I try to understand what they say about what I'm doing. And so it seems to me that on a street corner, that overall you're better off having a more minimal setup and putting out an open guitar case, because I think for the most part people are moved to tip from thinking that you are less fortunate, and that they want to help somebody that their best opportunity is playing on a street corner. And so that's been my way of thinking. But I would say that yesterday pushed in to some degree against that. Now, yesterday what happened is I didn't get very many tips, but the ones that I got were very good ones. And so I played to the best of my ability. I think I achieved my mix overall with the Space Arc better than I have, as good as I have to date. And so I think that helped significantly, because I made some significant adjustments, particularly with how the vocals were coming out and the volume level of the vocals. I think I got it much more balanced this time around. It's a little difficult as a one-man operation to get everything dialed in, well. But yeah, the tips that I got, maybe I got a total of like 6 tips or 7 tips, and yet the amount still came out to about $61 with about 2.5 hours of playing time. So I've made over 100 down there before, but I would say that overall, for the amount of tips that I got, the amount of money that I received, that's pretty solid. And I think there's plenty of room for growth and ways that I can be way more interactive with audiences. So let's tie that back to it only takes one, and maybe that's where we can wrap this particular video up. One of those $20 tips, I'm quite confident, came from a couple that came by and danced to Into the Mystic, which is a song I cover from Van Morrison. And I've worked out a really nice arrangement of that song. I think it's one of the best that I do at this point. And I love playing it because it stands out on its own as something very unique and different from almost any of the other songs that I do. Maybe it's in the vein of My Girl a little bit, but maybe a little bit. It has its own unique sound, its own pace, its own feel. And so I love playing it because it's variety, but it's also an incredibly beautiful song, and I think I just sing it really, really well. I think I do the whole thing, the arrangement, the performance of the instruments. I can get into the song fairly quickly, I can give it a full sound fairly quickly, and I can perform a very fluid, emotional performance. And so I was almost done playing the song when this couple came through, and they immediately started dancing in the street. And you could tell when they started dancing that they were completely swept into the moment and the music. And it was so it only takes one. When somebody does that, it makes, to me, I think it makes like the whole gig worth it. It's okay, the whole gig worth it. I will be, if they don't even have to tip. I mean, I'm glad that they did. I am out there on some level to make money. I need to make money from it, but I would be more grateful that they were willing to share that moment publicly and dance with my music and give me that purpose, because that's what they gave me. And to me, that is more important than the money. I mean, I have to make the money. I'll say it's more valuable to me. That moment that we got to share together is worth more than the $20. And so I'm grateful for the $20, and that's a gesture that they gave as a way of expressing their gratitude, expressing what it meant to them. But it means we all, it's a shared experience that we're both grateful for, and it's something that I provided and I had to work to provide. So it's sensible for them to tip me for what is a service. But there's something deeper for all sides of where there's just a gratitude, because they gave me a purpose and they allowed me to fulfill a purpose, and then it's just a beautiful thing. And so I was almost finished with the song when they started getting swept away in the very tail end of it. I'm just about to end it, but then I noticed that, and so I took it back through a bridge and a chorus, and I was even able to play it better than I usually do, and I put 100% in every time, but it just felt like pure music. There was no, that's the best way I can say it. It was pure music. And there was just a moment in time where the music was just completely pure, and it was inseparable from them, and it was just a magical moment. And I guess that's really all all that can be said about it. It's like I just try to provide that musical experience. It's probably a song that they know well and is a meaningful song to them. And I try to just make sure that I give a kind of quality and an emotional performance for an appropriate amount of time, because most people don't want to be out there. There is a time limit. If you just I could keep looping the song and going bridge, chorus for like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and they don't want to be dancing in the street for that long by themselves. If it was a whole dance party, maybe that's another thing. But they're looking to just stop and enjoy that moment, for this magical moment, for maybe a minute or 2 minutes, and then they can continue along the market. All right, so I say it only takes one, because when you have one experience like that, it's like at least you fulfilled a meaningful purpose. It gave that gig a reason for you to be there, something that was worth it, something that made it worth it. Where you did something for somebody that made the investment and the effort to go down there, set up everything, and wait and play songs through the lulls and everything, in order to find that one moment where you were able to give this gift that is just really special. So maybe that's a lesson from the market, or from busking in general. And yeah, I was going to say the city market is a little bit different, because it is inherently busking. That's what it looks like for anybody passing by. But it's a paid gig. It's not a lot, but it's not nothing either. At least a baseline of $100 that this particular situation pays the artists, and there can be maybe up to 4 different artists along this market, which is along Market Street, with lots of different street vendors, and it's a cool, unique part of Charleston. But it's interesting because it's absolutely busking, but it's a little bit more official than busking I've done anywhere else. And that I feel like that does come through a little bit to your average passerby, which matters because it's going to impact that relationship. They're like a little more likely to have a connection with you, or they're a little less likely to be cold because the environment. But it's still busking, and most people are just walking by, and people say things like, some people said something that was pretty rude, even though they weren't really aware of it. They talked about how they talked about the vendors that are in there, and it was just really ignorant, because they're, I think, completely wrong in what they said. They said something like that it's like low quality. If you want cheap stuff, you go to the market. If you want the good stuff, you go to King Street or something like that, or wherever street they said. I don't think that's true. I know the vendors, and I know the quality of things that are provided in there, and some of the things that you can get in there are probably the best quality in Charleston. So I think it's just an ignorant thing, so that they just some idea that they have in their head that's not backed up at all. And I'm 24 minutes in this video. I can't imagine that anybody stuck around this long, so I'm going to end it here. Some scattered post-gig thoughts there. It only takes one. So I just reinforce, if you're out there busking, you're out there playing a gig, just keep pushing through and look for that one. If you don't get that one, go back home, go to sleep knowing that you put your best foot forward, and get up and look for that one on the next one. That's just the way it goes sometimes. Thanks for watching my video. Like I said, if you're interested in like sort of the political thought, philosophical thought kind of stuff that I've been posting a little bit, responses to videos, reactions, that kind of stuff, I'm going to be doing that on a different YouTube channel called Noah Damas. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.